Okay, I'm super nervous. I'm so nervous. My last college football game between Ohio State and Notre Dame, I think 29 million people watched that game, and I am much more terrified this very moment. So, thank you for being here. Thank you for letting me be here. I just want to tell one quick story before I start my speech. The last time I was on a stage like this, I was graduating from the University of Utah in 1991. And I was just a huge Chicago Bulls fan. And they could never get, thank you, yes. They could never get past the Detroit Pistons. And the day before graduation, they beat the Pistons to go to the NBA Finals for the first time. So when I walked across the stage, we had to write this little card so that they could read out your name. And now graduating. And so I wrote Holly Bulls Rowe. And so that's the last time I was on this stage. I was graduating as Holly Bulls Rowe. So here I am today. Okay, so here's the real part. Hello, distinguished guests, alumni, and President Randall, and Spence Eccles. Like, you're a baller. I'm so excited for you to be here. I can't believe you're here. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love him. This is so cool. I cannot believe it. I'm just a kid from Bountiful, Utah, and I can't believe that you invited me here. I was really listening to Grace and Austin's bios, and I was like, do you guys want to switch places with me? I think you're much more accomplished. And Austin, be honest, I'm pretty sure you've hacked the university system. Have you? Be honest. Change my GPA if you did. So I feel a great responsibility to let you know that no matter what your grades were, no matter what your academic accomplishments or lack thereof are today as you graduate, you get to go out and decide what the rest of your future looks like, and it is possible. I think your generation hears a lot what's wrong with you and why you can't. And I want to breathe into you encouragement and hope and love today because you guys kick bleep. You know what? I can say this with great certainty because when I was here at the U, I was a very mediocre student, and I barely graduated. It took me so long to be sitting right where you are. I was kind of nervous to speak today, actually, because I was on a payment plan for many years. This is a true story, post-college for my parking tickets that I received. And so now I'm really freaking out because now they know where I am. So please, let me finish my speech first. But, you know, I did have one thing going for me. Even if I wasn't a great student, I was a great worker, and I was super creative and industrious. I have an incredible work ethic, and that helped me go from being a so-so student to having a Hall of Fame career. I actually got inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame this last year. Like, it's so crazy. I'm really lucky because I grew up in a family that insisted on setting goals. I had a weekly personal progress report meeting with my dad. I know that sounds crazy, but Rowe, he's in heaven, but he was a driving force in my life. He actually grew up on a sheep ranch in Manti, Utah, and he earned a scholarship to the University of Utah as a boxer, and he was also in the marching band here. And then he eventually earned his law degree from the University of Utah. My dad was also a baller. He was actually here boxing at the University of Utah one night, and his dad was watching him ringside. And my grandfather had a heart attack and passed away that night. So I never got to meet my grandfather. My mother also went back to school, and she came here and got her degree at Utah. After raising and having 5 children, she went on to get her master's degree later in her life. And all of those 5 kids attended Utah at some point. So we have a very strong emotional attachment to this university. For me, I had a lot of stops and starts. Like, I would have to go, my parents would help where they could, but I was really poor. And I would have to work for 6 months and try to scrape together enough money to have tuition. And then I would take classes, and then I would have to stop and work again. I worked literally everywhere in Utah. I worked at the state legislature as a secretary, Howard Hughes Medical Institution, smoking cessation study here on campus. I cleaned office buildings in town. I've probably cleaned your office building, many of you people sitting here. I donated plasma. I mean, I was broke. Some of you may have been there. If you were, God bless us all, we made it, right? But I worked a lot of jobs to get through college, and it took me a lot of time. But when I first got out of college, I struggled because it was so hard just to get that degree. now what? Like, my path wasn't laid out for me. I didn't know what classes and prerequisites, I didn't have that roadmap that they had given us while we were in college, and so I didn't know where to go. But it turns out that you can go through commencement and technically not get your degree, because I found that out after commencement. I walked across that stage, Holly Bowles Rowe, and then I got my report card, and I had failed my algebra class. So there was that. But more on that later. Put a pin in that. So it was hard. You get out into the world, what had been neatly laid out for you in college, now there's no plan. So what do? The thing I could rely on is I always knew what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I wanted to be a sportscaster. I was obsessed with sports. I loved everything to do with sports. I came to games here with my dad when Tom Chambers and Jeff Judkins and all these old great players were playing here. And so I had a great vision while I was in college of how to help me in the future. I took coaching football, coaching basketball. Now, I did get A's in those classes. I was brilliant in these sports classes. Sports law, sports psychology. I wrote for the Utah Chronicle. One of my first feature stories I ever did was on a brand new volleyball coach they had just hired, Beth Lanier, and she is still here kicking butt, and I'm so proud of her. So once I left here, there were a lot of options, but none of them were hiring kids right out of college. And you may face some of that yourselves. So I did a million internships. I did an internship in New York City for CBS Sports, KSL Radio, KJazz, KBYU, anything I could do. I would volunteer to do all of the grunt work, and I would do everything that other people wouldn't do. I would volunteer. And that's what I want you all to do, because what started to happen is when I started getting opportunities, I had earned those. Other people didn't get the opportunities because I had been the one that people were impressed with, because I would do what others wouldn't. So you'll have to earn your opportunities too. You're not gonna get out and get your dream job. Like, I literally do have my dream job. I'm getting paid to watch sports. Have we picked that up yet? I am getting paid to go to games. It is the biggest scam in the history of the world. I mean, it's literally my dream job. But you guys can all get your dream jobs. It's just gonna take you a minute, and I want you to have some grace as you're sitting here today and as you leave here, to give yourselves a little grace to stay on that path for your dream job. So one thing I want you to do today and this week is I want you to spend some time, and I'm really serious about this. Sit on your couch by yourself and close your eyes and really envision the life that you want, and then create it. I think a lot of us get distracted and we have all these things and we haven't really set out our vision for what we want to be. So I brought a prop. This is my rock that I painted 20 years ago at a girls' camp retreat with my church. And it says, imagine the life that you want and create it. I've taken this everywhere I've lived in the last 30 years. I sat there and I imagined the life that I wanted, and I did go out and create it. Again, getting paid to watch sports. Hello. So I put that plan in motion and I started doing all of those things. And soon after graduation, I figured out things like there were no women's sports that were getting broadcast in this state at all. So I worked with former advisors that I'd had here in college and the radio station. Shout out Mark Amicone. You know who you are and what you did for me. Bill Marcroft, Chris Tunis, people mentored me. And I bought airtime on the radio station, and I would go out and sell the ads myself so that I could get the University of Utah women's basketball games on the radio for the first time. Utah versus BYU was our first ever broadcast. I'm very proud of that. And now some of that was selfish because I wanted to be the announcer, right? But I created that opportunity for myself. And in doing that, I helped to lift women's sports to new heights. And I'm very proud of that. This last March, a year ago, 18.9 million people watched the women's national championship basketball game, more than watched the men's. And that is something that I helped create, and I'm very proud of that. So now all of the women's games are on the air, and you'll have those opportunities. Those of you who are interested in communications, you can create these same opportunities. In 1995, I was working at KBYU TV, and I noticed that the ABC broadcast for the BYU-Utah game that week didn't have a sideline reporter. And so I called the producer. I still don't know. I'm so crazy sometimes. I just believed in myself. And I called the producer and said, I can do the game for you. I'm prepared. I know the coaches. If you need someone local, I can do it. So shout out Ron McBride and Lavelle Edwards, who trusted me and included me and opened their arms to this young, naive, dumb girl from Bountiful that just wanted to cover their games. And the producer said yes, Dick Buffington. I will always, always remember him. So I kept calling. So that was my first game in 1995 on ABC Sports. And I didn't know how the world worked. I just thought that was my one big shot. So the next week when he said, oh, we're doing San Diego State with Marshall Falk at San Jose State, I thought, well, I'm going to call him again. There's no reporter listed. And so I called him and I said, you know what? I'm going to be in San Jose. What a weird coincidence. It's crazy. And he was like, you are? Yes, yes. So I got to do the game. Of course, I was so poor, I had to take a train from Salt Lake City to San Jose, like for $70, which seemed like a fortune back then. But I figured out that I could get these opportunities. And what I didn't know then was those games were on satellite TV, and so the people back in New York City saw my work, and they hired me full-time at ESPN. That one phone call changed my life. 30 years later, I am still working for ESPN. So I want you to have that same courage and that same attitude and believe in yourself and be reckless with your confidence. Irrational confidence is your friend because it has worked for me. Early at ESPN, I got to work the Division III National Championship game, and I was like, oh my gosh, I am so amazing. Like, National Championship game, Division III. I have made it in life. And at the time, the coach for the winning team was a man named Frosty Westring at Pacific Lutheran. And he gave me his book that he had written called Make the Big Time Where You Are. And that book changed my life because I think so many of us go through life chasing the big time. And so we're never happy where we are. And I didn't do that. Every single time I learned that whatever game I was doing in that moment, that was my big time. And it has allowed me to stay happy and present in each moment of my career, no matter how big or small the events were. Once they asked me to do PBA bowling, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like these opportunities. So from the Division III National Championship to now working for more than 10 national championships for Division I for ABC, including the last one with Ohio State, I really have made the big time, but I've been happy the whole way because the big time has been where I am. That's what I hope for all of you. So be present, be absorbed in what you love. Being present and absorbed helped to save my life a few years ago when I was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic cancer. And for those of you who don't know, stage 4 is really bad because stage 5 is when you die. So just keep that in mind. So I had inoperable tumors in my lungs, and it was a deadly diagnosis. Things were not looking good. And I remember one day my doctor, he was so cute and awkward about it, and he was like, you really need to start thinking about how you're spending your time. And I know now that was his nice way of saying, like, we don't know if you're going to make it. Be conscientious about how you're spending your time. So I went home that day, and like I'm telling you, I sat on my couch and I closed my eyes and I tried to imagine what would my day look like or my week or my month look like if I was going to die soon. And I realized that I was living like that already. I really honestly would not have changed a thing. I had so much joy in my job. The vision that was instilled by my parents at a very young age, my relentless pursuit of my dream job, where I get paid to watch sports, and spending time with the greatest joy of my life, Mikailan, who is here tonight. Don't make me cry. He's the best thing ever. I was already doing what I loved and what mattered to me. So imagine the life that you want and create it. And when I was nearly on my deathbed, I had already been living that life. That is the greatest gift, and I want that gift for all of you young people who get to go out and create your lives. So my life has been spared by a clinical trial, so thank you to all of the scientists and engineers and people who are going into pharmaceutical. My life has been saved. A clinical trial with some cutting-edge immunotherapy And I just got to move from my 6-month scans to my 1-year scan, so I'm doing better now. But the lesson I learned in that battle is, and I hope it is what you walk out of here embracing and knowing today, is you have to know what matters to you. There's a lot of things that will get in your way and distract you as you move forward. Find out what it is. It's not what you see on social media where you're comparing yourselves to other people. It's just you and what makes you your unique, original, creative self. I see all the painted mortar boards. You guys are so cute and fun and creative. That's what I want, is be your original best self. So I stand here today as someone who has interviewed the very best of the best, from Michael Jordan to LeBron James, Diana Taurasi, Candace Parker, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrows, Kobe Bryant. I really could just name 70,000 athletes because I really have interviewed everybody. I'm doing Caitlin Clark's game on Sunday at Iowa. She's returning to Iowa for the first time. I'm getting paid to do that, by the way. Hello. One of my greatest moments, Vince Young versus Matt Leinart in the greatest Rose Bowl game and national championship ever. So I've been to the White House. I've met Oprah, who, funny story, was also 1 credit short of graduating when she went through commencement. And it took her longer, more than a decade, to get her degree. So I beat Oprah. I did eventually get mine. There you go. I've won an Emmy. I've been nominated 5 times. I've just lived this big, beautiful, bold life. And I'm not telling you this to say, look how great I am. I'm telling you this to say, look how great you can be. I am just really this dumb, sports-obsessed kid from Bountiful, Utah. I haven't worked a day in my life. I have been the luckiest in the world because I had the vision to really plan out what was I good at and stick with it. And then my last piece of advice is to encourage you to let this degree and all of these years that you've invested to only be the beginning of your knowledge. I want you to leave here and learn more away from this university than you did. Every single day, stretch yourself, grow, seek others who are different than you. I mean, 70 countries. You should have met a lot of incredible people here that can continue to teach us as we move through life. I have had some really incredible life experiences. I spent 3 months in the WNBA bubble during COVID and the social justice uprising of 2020. It changed my life. I learned so much, and the women of the WNBA are still some of my greatest teachers of how to be a good ally and how to approach that community that needs our love and support. Find people with diverse processes and ideas who can broaden your life view. Diversity is our greatest teacher, and I want you all to embrace it. So thank you for letting me share my hope with you. What I know now that I did not know 34 years ago when I was sitting exactly where you are, and shout out to the fun people out here. There's someone over there with sunglasses. You've been fun the whole time. I appreciate you. Thank you. I knew you were there for me. Find the things in life that bring you joy, that bring you passion. Like that. You're giving me a lot of joy. Because have you ever had those moments where you lose time, you're so wrapped up in what you're doing that you never feel like you work? That's what you should be doing for your job. You focus on that and you will be successful. So fight for it, be creative, check on your vision frequently. And now, I was gonna drop a big Kendrick Lamar phrase right here, but I didn't know if our people would like that or not. So if this world were mine, just imagine your life and go out and create it and just be the best, biggest, most beautiful version of yourselves. Thank you all for having me.
Hey, can I, from the guy in the sunglasses, can I get an ow for Holly Rowe? All right, I love it. Hey, Holly, I don't know, you got an incredible shoe game. Is there a way we can get a close-up on that? I mean, check that out. That is impressive. I like good kicks. So anyway, Holly, we loved hearing about your tenacity, the grit that you've shown throughout your career and life. Your story reminds us that when we have a dream in mind and the willingness to act, Not even parking tickets, I suppose, can get in the way. And I don't have a lot of powers as president, but they're gone.
I think I paid him.
Oh, you did? Well, maybe a refund. Anyway, not sure I can promise that to the rest of you, though, right? Holly, we are cheering. I know, sorry about that. That was bad news. We're all supposed to be happy tonight. Holly, we're cheering you on. So no matter where you are, we're with you.